And now the Walking Dead universe is going very strong right now, and you know, with spin-offs such as Dead City, The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, The Walking Dead The Ones Who Live, and also Fear the Walking Dead, and also potentially more spin-offs being announced in the near future, the Walking Dead universe is going really strong, and I don't see it ending anytime soon. But I thought it'd be fun to discuss and theorize, how will the Walking Dead universe end with this cast of characters, like, you know, the cast of characters that we actually have right now, such as Rick, Daryl, Negan, Morgan, and all of these other characters that we've been following for years. So stay tuned. And now, before we actually get into the video, I'd like to ask you all to like, share, and subscribe. And again, thank you guys so much for the growth. Thank you guys so much for the support. I really appreciate it. And you know, it's been about 12 to 13 days that I have actually posted a video, and you know, the reasoning for that is that my new semester of college has actually started. It's actually my last semester, so that's the reason why I wasn't able to upload and, you know, just, you know, keep on track with the uploading schedule. But you know, I promise I will try to keep a good uploading schedule, try to maintaining it, and you know, try, you know, making content for y'all, because I really do enjoy making content, like especially Walking Dead content. I really enjoy it. And yeah, other than that, thank you guys so much and enjoy the video. And now, the topic of the Walking Dead universe coming to an end has actually been discussed by a lot of people in the community. I personally have actually talked about it on this channel quite a bit, but you know, I just want to make a full-on video about it. And you know, with the direction that the Walking Dead is going in, right, you know, it does remind me a lot of, like, you know, how like the Avengers movies, and you know, the MCU has like actually went for the first 3 phases with the first Avengers Infinity War, and Avengers Endgame. Like, you know, there was a lot of setup and build up there, a lot of universe building right there. So I think that they might do that with the Walking Dead universe, and we are seeing that with, like, you know, like with the spin-offs that came out, and also like, you know, a Dead City having its season 2. It does look like that the Walking Dead universe is going strong, and it won't end for a couple of years. So, but yeah, like, you know, I want to discuss, like, how will this universe end, and it's a really interesting concept, because, like, you know, if you really think about it, I don't see the Walking Dead universe itself coming to an end, but I do see, like, you know, these characters and their journeys, such as Rick, Daryl, Negan, Morgan, Carol, all of these characters, like, you know, their journeys coming to an end in the next couple of years. And that is especially because of these spin-offs that are coming out. You know, they're a build up towards the CRM, and I have discussed this in previous videos that the CRM are going to be the big bads of this universe, and it does look like that they are sprinkling their influence in the universe. If they're not really showing the CRM, or, like, you know, if they're not name dropping them all that often, it does seem like that the CRM are going to be a big part of this universe. And you know, still there is a potential, there's a possibility that we might see them in the Daryl Dixon spinoff, like the season finale of the Daryl Dixon spinoff, or season 2 of the Daryl Dixon spinoff, and also season 2 of Dead City. Fear the Walking Dead has actually showed the CRM quite a bit, and you know, they've built up the CRM as a big threat, right? And also we did see in season 9 and season 8 of, like, you know, the CRM, like, you know, having their influence, and you know, them having helicopters, and of course World Beyond, you know, being that big explanation for the CRM. And of course, The Walking Dead The Ones Who Live, the Rick and Michonne spinoff, is all around the CRM, and you know, Rick's journey of, like, you know, to the CRM, and you know, Michonne's journey to actually rescue Rick from the CRM. And now, of course, with these characters going on this journey of like, you know, finding Rick, because we could actually see that this universe is going in this direction now where Rick is the center of it all again, right? You know, such as Morgan at the end of Fear, right? You know, his last episode of Fear, like, you know, Morgan is actually going to look for Rick. Daryl's whole journey is to look for Rick, and you know, Negan and Maggie, they're doing their own thing. But I do think that they will end up, like, you know, coming across Rick, coming across the CRM, because of course, like, you know, they can't just, like, separate Negan and Maggie from this whole, like, you know, journey, or this whole narrative of this universe. So I think in some point of season 2 of Dead City, Negan and Maggie will come across the CRM, and then they will learn that, you know, Rick is taken by the CRM, right? And you know, of course, with the Daryl Dixon spinoff, Daryl, he's trying to get back home, and we all know that he's not going to get back home in this season, because in season 2 of the Daryl Dixon spinoff, Carol is with him, and they're both in France. So again, like, you know, Daryl is not making it back to America anytime soon. And like, yeah, like, you know, of course, Michonne's whole journey is in The Walking Dead The Ones Who Live. You know, she's gonna find Rick. Now, the only thing that's kind of, like, you know, scaring me, to say the least, is that The Walking Dead The Ones Who Live might have only 1 season. but I don't see Rick dying. And now, with that being said, how will they conclude Rick Grimes' story? How will they conclude this whole narrative? And I have talked about this in another video, that they're going to make a Walking Dead movie, and just a huge crossover of like all these characters, reuniting, having this big moment together, with the CRM being like like the big bads of the universe, them being like the final battle per se of this universe, and Rick Grimes having a conclusion in that story right there. Now, it's not really confirmed if it's going to be a movie or if they're even setting up towards a movie. It's very likely that they could just make another spin-off or another Walking Dead season, maybe a Walking Dead season 12, like some sort of special season for The Walking Dead, like an actual conclusion for The Walking Dead. Because in my opinion, season 11 wasn't a conclusion of one of the biggest shows of all time, right? And again, like, a lot of people may not agree with it now, but The Walking Dead is definitely one of the biggest shows of all time, right? It had a huge influence in the media back when it came out, like all the way up to like season 7, right? Because season 7, like, the viewership of just that season 7 premiere was insane, right? And then, like, they actually kept that, they actually had those viewers from previous seasons, but then it actually dropped after season 7, so that's why people actually think that The Walking Dead went down in quality. But yeah, like, other than that, like, let's get back into, like, The Walking Dead having a season 12 or like a big final season or even a movie, right? Because as I mentioned before, The Walking Dead season 11 didn't feel like a conclusion, and that was only because of the spin-offs that were announced. So if they were to, like, conclude this story in the next, like, 5-6 years, right? Because again, like, they actually are going to announce 3 more spin-offs. This was leaked before, and we don't know which characters will get those spin-offs, but we do know that there are 3 spin-offs in the way. And with New York Comic Con actually being, like, next week, right? It's actually taking place next week, and I believe it's actually confirmed that The Walking Dead: The Ones Who Live is going to have a teaser shown there. It is very possible that we might get more announcements of new spin-offs, right? Because, like, the Daryl Dixon spin-off is going into its season finale in the next 2-3 weeks, right? And a Dead City season 2 is already in production, so we could very well get like a teaser for Dead City season 2, right? Like actual footage of the next season. But for now, after the Daryl Dixon spin-off, we are only left with like, The Ones Who Live, and also Fear the Walking Dead. And also Fear the Walking Dead is going to have its finale in the next few months, right? And again, like, Fear the Walking Dead is not going to have a conclusion, right? Fear the Walking Dead is going to be like, the ending of Fear the Walking Dead is going to be very open-ended, so like how season 11 of The Walking Dead was, because it's very likely that some characters from Fear will also get some spin-offs. But yeah, like, when it comes to a big finale with all of these characters, I don't see them doing it any better way than, like, a movie, right? Because, like, I do believe that their original plan for a Rick Grimes movie has actually turned into a big crossover movie, and that's only because of, like, Avengers Endgame was so successful, right? Avengers Endgame was insanely successful, and it was a really good conclusion to, like, the character stories such as Captain America, like, Iron Man, and a few others, right? So yeah, like, I do totally see them going into this direction of a Walking Dead like movie, big finale, and having the CRM being the big bads. Now, that is only the conclusion of Rick Grimes, Daryl, Negan, right? The big characters that we've been following for the years. Now, if the Walking Dead universe is going to stay successful, I think that they might do a Walking Dead New Generation, and with like Judith and RJ and Herschel and all of these kids growing up, because that was actually originally a deleted scene for the finale of season 11. They actually shot it all, and they got like grown-up actors for like Judith and RJ and all these characters, and yeah, they were totally setting up towards a Walking Dead New Generation. Now, like, I'm really happy that they didn't actually go for that in season 11, and they just held it off, because again, like, if you already announced those spin-offs, like, for example, because like Rick Grimes' return was announced like back in 2019, 2020, right? So, if they really kept that scene in at the end of season 11, it like, to be honest, it would have spoiled some stuff, and then everyone would have had more questions. It's like, oh yeah, did Rick survive? Like, what happened between that time of the finale of season 11 and that scene right there where the children are actually grown up? So again, like, the ending of season 11, I guess they just did it the best that they could. It seemed a little rushed, but that's only because they're actually setting up towards a big reunion. And now, of course, with the discussion of this universe ending, I'd like, it's not important that these characters actually do end up dying, right? They could end up living. Now, the characters that could end up surviving all the way through are Carol and Daryl. Like, these two characters, I don't see them dying. Negan and Rick, on the other hand, I do see them, dying in this big crossover event, and that's because, again, like, Negan's whole redemption and stuff like that, and Negan does seem like the character to actually, go out like that in a way, like a sacrificial role, right? For the group and against the CRM. He probably, like, has a moment like how Rick did on the bridge, but like, this time around Negan actually does end up dying. And when it comes to Rick, of course, like, it's Rick Grimes, right? And in the comics as well, like, Rick actually did end up dying after his big speech. And I do think that he will give that speech in the CRM, like, the base during the CRM war that they're actually building up towards. And that's because, like, Daryl's speech was good in season 11 of The Walking Dead in the Commonwealth arc. But again, like, the Commonwealth in general seemed pretty small compared to the comics. So I think that they're saving that big speech for Rick himself and in the CRM, probably like in the movie or whatever new season of The Walking Dead they're going to do, or probably one of the 3 spin-offs are actually like, this whole big crossover season, but they're keeping that under wraps. Of course, it's totally possible that they're like, going to make like a movie trilogy for this, like, arc of the CRM war, or they could just make one big movie and just conclude everybody's stories. But again, like, with these characters that we've been following for so long, I don't see them concluding all of their stories in one movie. I think that they'll do a trilogy, and like probably like in the second movie Negan might die, and then the last movie Rick might die. And that's only because, these actors can't play these characters forever, and these characters do need a good conclusion. Now, again, Negan could definitely survive, right? We're on the topic of Negan right now, and I do think that Negan could survive because Negan is the type of character that could go either way. And for all we know, because Daryl is the big poster boy of The Walking Dead, Daryl might end up having that big death, and Rick might end up surviving and, just growing older than he already is, and, like them doing a time jump in the end, and he's the one that's mentoring all of the kids, right? Like Judith, RJ, Herschel, Mo, right? If Morgan actually does end up having a reunion with Rick and everyone else, I do think that he will be with them, and Mo might grow up with them as well. And yeah, like I think it's either Daryl or Rick that could be the big mentor figures in whatever time jump they're going to do, because they're definitely going to do a time jump at the end of this. And it's just it's really fun to, like, speculate of which character is going to die, which characters is going to survive. And yeah, another character I really want to talk about is Morgan. And Morgan, of course, like, his story of his clear phase has actually come to an end in Fear, right? He went past that phase, and it's very... It does look like that they want to conclude Morgan's story in Fear, but because Morgan is such a big character, he has such a big influence on the Walking Dead universe, and just people love him so much, they might save his conclusion for whatever crossover event. And again, like he might have that sacrificing role, because again, like, there isn't much that they could do with Morgan's character other than him looking for Rick, and when he actually does find Rick. And again, like, I actually did discuss this in a previous video of mine, that if they were to have a Walking Dead The Ones Who Live season 2, Morgan might be in that season. And that's only because in The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon season 2, it's going to be Carol. Dead City season 2, it's very likely that Dwight might show up in that. So it just makes sense that, like, Morgan shows up in season 2 of The Walking Dead The Ones Who Live, and then Morgan, Rick, and Michonne escape the CRM together. And that's because Morgan actually does know how does the CRM work and how do they operate, because he's actually had experience with the CRM beforehand. Now, we all know that the CRM are going to be the big bads of this universe, and it just shows because, like, all the seeds that they're planting, and with all these spin-offs of CRM, it does seem like that they do have an influence on, like, just this whole universe. Now, when it comes to the Thanos of this universe, like, just the one figure that is going to be the main problem. I did make a video about this beforehand, but I want to discuss it in this video as well, that it's either Jadis or Major General Beale. Now, again, like, we have to see in The Walking Dead The Ones Who Live, how does that turn out, because It is likely that Jadis might end up turning good, and then Major General Beale being the one that's like, the big bad, the Thanos. Or, they could just like do a whole like fake out and make it seem like, Jadis is good, but then she ends up killing Major General Beale, such as like, how Leah actually killed Pope in season 11. She double crossed him, and then she crossed Daryl, right? So she became the antagonist, but where we all thought that she was going to be a protagonist. Now, again, we see that again with Jadis, right? With Jadis and Major General Beale, right? She could pretend to be working with Rick, and then she kills Major General Beale, and then she assumes power of the CRM, making her the big bad of the whole Walking Dead universe, and maybe potentially this trilogy of movies that are going to come out, or The Walking Dead final season, or The Walking Dead season 12. And I think that would be a great way of concluding The Walking Dead in general. Again, they could do a movie, right? They could do a trilogy of movies, right? Have a part 1, part 2, and part 3. Part 3 being the big crossover event. The first movie being that, like, Rick and Daryl finally reunite. The second movie probably being Negan, Maggie, Rick, and Daryl, and all of them reuniting. And then the third movie having the Fear characters in there, having Morgan in there, having all of these characters that we've been following for years, all together with Rick Grimes leading them. And now that's it for today's video. I would like to ask you all to like, share, and subscribe. And again, thank you guys so much for the growth. Thank you guys so much for the support. And this is probably one of the longest videos I've made. And I just want to make up for the time I've lost, and just the days that I haven't uploaded. I want to make a long video for y'all. So I hope you all enjoyed it. Please like, share, and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching.